Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, leaders, we are excited to have you back with us this week. And we are joined by two additional amazing leaders with us today. We've got Wendy McKenna and Dawnese Openshaw. And when we talk about leadership, we talk about master leadership and leaders of leaders. Oh my goodness, we are so honored to have both Wendy and Dawnese here today with us. So Dawnese is the founder of the Global Leadership Academy, and Wendy is one of the master trainers for the Global Leadership Academy. So we're excited to talk all about leadership, talk more about teen leadership, and just, standing for the leaders and the listeners who want to up level and be unleashed and unstoppable in leadership. So welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Dawnese. We are so excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Great to
fun to be here.
So do you guys want to just dive in, share a little bit about who you are and, how you got on this journey of being not only founders, but also, trainer inside of the Global Leadership Academy?
Yes. So I actually grew up across the valley from Stephen Covey's family's ranch.
Very cool.
You may not have known. Leadership has been something that has been such an integral part of my life. And at age 14, my dad handed me the book Dale Carnegie wrote on how to win friends and influence people. Now, I don't know why he handed it to me. He doesn't remember either. It's been a long time since that moment. But obviously there was a message that my dad was giving me. And from that moment, like in that space at the age of 14, learning how to call people by name, the really understanding that everyone that I encounter matters, just really ignited something in me. And so I've been looking at opportunities in my life, how to create a bigger impact and to create a space where people can be in their leadership, to understand what leadership really means. Because, a lot of times we say leadership and people are like, oh, managers at work or different leaders, president of the United States, that kind of thing. But leadership really starts within me. It starts within you. It starts within each one of us. And that gets me excited to support people to figure out, how do I show up as the best version of me, so that I'm giving the best of me to my family, to my friends, to myself, to my neighbors, to my community. And that's how all of this came to be, and the global impact that gets to be created through the Global Leadership Academy.
Wow, that's so cool, Dawnese. And man, I love that. I resonate so much with mattering. I say that all the time. You matter. It's so powerful. And I absolutely love the way you talk about leadership starting within. That's one of the things that I also say a lot, is that we lead our lives every day, because I certainly did not think of myself as a leader before encountering a leadership training program and going deep there. And it really opened my eyes to what true leadership meant. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, my pleasure. And of course, that's since I started at that teenage years, not everyone had that opportunity, and I understand that. But that is truly the passion that we have as we talk about teen leadership, and really igniting within these young leaders the opportunity for them to see it at a younger age than many of us had the opportunity.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
And that's where I'll jump in.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. It's Wendy. I had a very different start with the idea of leadership. I in high school got the feedback from people, from my teachers, from my parents. Oh, she's a natural leader. She's a natural leader. And I would hear that all the time. And how I interpreted that was she's the one who wants the grade and will do the work and nobody else will. And I didn't want to be the leader because it's like, why does it need to be just on my shoulders? And so my experience of other people's view of what leadership was and wasn't was actually missing the boat. So going back to what Dawnese was talking about, you know, and having that come from within, I got my first taste of leadership coming from within from the message that I got from my mom. And this is where I didn't get given a book, but what she told me is she said, Wendy, your job in life is to discover what you love and to follow it with passion.
Wow.
That was and for me that was pressure because it's like, well, what do I love? I don't know. Do I love this? Do I love that? Do I need to choose? And so I tended to put pressure on myself anyway. It was one of my rackets and things that I did that kept me in confusion versus stepping into clarity and what I wanted. But I did through my teenage years figure out that what I loved, even if somebody else didn't, was okay. And that I could pursue it even in the face of people who may have been naysayers or who do you think you are? And so I kept stepping into that. And even in college, I chose ways on my journey that everyone was like, why are you doing it like that? Like you could do it like this. And I'm like, but that doesn't feel right for me. I know everybody else does it that way, but that's not my path. And so I think from my mom telling me that, it gave me the confidence to just trust my path and walk my path. I didn't know that was leadership. I didn't know that that was leadership until somebody, you know, said, go to this leadership course. And that was 6 years ago. And I walked in, I was like, oh, I mean, I've actually been doing this, just didn't know what to call it, but I didn't know how to give it away. I didn't know how to develop it in other people at that time. I just said, well, that's just who I am. And that I have now realized is, well, selfish, because if something's working, I absolutely get to give it away. So now I have left. I'm a doctor of physical therapy in pediatrics. I have closed my practice down. I still see a couple of patients here and there because I can't get rid of them and they won't get rid of me. And I will always be in that space, but I have stepped full tilt into training leadership because everybody gets to get that it starts from within, that they matter, that their passions matter, that what's important to them matters, and that they get to have and build the skills of responsibility and commitment and generosity and authenticity and all of the things that really are the building blocks to living an extraordinary life. And so that is my mission. That is my vision. That is my commitment. And here I am as a master trainer for teens and the adults in practice, which is where once we learn how to do it in the room, we actually go out and implement it where the rubber meets the road and do the work. And I love being in partnership with people on that journey.
Wow. Wow.
Always lights me up when you guys lead into the passion. And, you know, for both Wendy and Dawnese, when I'm hearing you speak, because I know that you do work with a lot of parents, right? I've got my parent hat on now. And, you know, we speak a lot to the listener as like the being and in the adult and the transformation for the individual. What does this look like now for our kids and being that source and standing as a source of a transform world and helping instill that in them, instill the responsibility and the confidence and the ways of being that'll support them? Because as leaders, leading teams, leading our families, leading ourselves, right? As you each said, like it does start within us. And how do we now have this trickle down the generation to generation, right? Whether it's our children, our grandchildren, so that it continues on and that we can really change the trajectory. Like for me, it's a really big thing about sort of ending the cycles that don't serve and like opening it up so that people feel empowered and the confidence and that they just rock it, right? They're not experiencing all this self-doubt and things that just hold them back. I mean, I happen to have been in one of the leadership rooms with you, Wendy, with the teens last January. And it was heartbreaking to see these young teenagers just so hard on themselves. And just sort of seeing that was like, oh my goodness, like this is such powerful work on ourselves, and we can help the next generations and generations to shift this, to change the trajectory, and just make life and everyone around us like just so much more joyful and loving, and just making life just so much more juicy to live, you know?
Yeah.
I love that juicy. Yes.
Juicy. I know it all gets to be juicy. It all gets to be juicy.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's so much to unpack in what you just shared, Alex. And being a parent is probably one of the most personal things that we will all, any of us will embark on and encounter and be involved with. And so really it starts with, who do I see myself as a parent? And what is my purpose as a parent? What is my vision as a parent? And one of the distinctions that has served me is that I have shifted from being what I think traditionally parent is, and parenting as a verb, into partnership, into being a partner with my child from birth. So I am working with them to serve them, to be with them on their journey, to make sure that they know that they're not alone. Sometimes I'm the coach, so I will ask questions. I will evoke out of them answers that they may not know or understand. I know right now with my son, there's this, he's 11, and there's this boys will be boys mentality out there. And all boys in psychology, they're going to, they just up level. They, someone will tell a story and the next person's going to up level it. And then like, well, I did it better. Well, I hit the ball further. Well, I hit 5 balls further, and so it's just this up leveling, and it's banter, and it can be fun, but it does cross a line frequently. And so with my son, I will just simply bring it back down to one simple question: is we've already established, and he's committed to, he's the kind of person who lifts others up. I said, there's 2 kind of people. You can either be the person that lifts people up or tears them down. There is no in between. It's one or the other. So who are you? He's like, oh, I lift people up. Great. Awesome. We have now established that. It is a known fact, no matter what your behavior is. So now we look at the behavior. The behavior is not who you be. It's not who you are. It's just what you did. Now it may work and it may not work, but they always have an opportunity to look at and reflect upon, oh gosh, what I just said actually teared that person down. Awesome. Great that you recognize that. What could you do now differently? And he'll answer the question. It's like, okay, let's practice that. So there's no shame and blame for him. It's no getting angry at him for doing it wrong. It's being in partnership with him to support him in being who he says he is and who I know him to be. He is a sweet, generous, loving, athletic, competitive, beautiful human being who gets to thrive. And that's my job. I don't need to control it. I don't need to make sure that he gets into the right school, whatever that means. Take all the classes, join the rat race that's out there. I walked the path of not being in the rat race, and it worked.
Yeah.
And so I can trust that I don't need to be or part of the rat race. And in addition to that, I can talk to other parents who also can start, behind closed doors, they're all questioning the rat race, but out in the open, they're running it.
Yeah. So I'm finding that all over the place. It's very true that, there's this constant drive for hustle culture, and yet people are burning out, breaking down, and they can't figure out how to get out of it. Now that's where the neuroscience comes in. That's where I get excited. And just thank you, Wendy, for that profound wisdom. And, knowing that our children came to us, we are ideally situated to parent that particular child or children. I have 3 all grown adults now, and thankful for that. Thankful for that. But, the neuroscience is that we get things wired in, and they come wired in very early in our childhoods. So I particularly love this focus on teens and on parenting, because as the generation who now has these tools of leadership and neuroscience, we can provide the system and the process for our children to have something different than what we got later in life, right? And the neuroscience of it is that these beliefs get wired in. And you being a pediatrician, I'm sure you're familiar with this. You've studied this, Wendy, and we all have exposure. But the important part to know is that we can rewire those beliefs. And so that's the thing I love about, being able to partner with your child and step back and then to collaborate with them. It's a beautiful picture to allow them to become this wonderful, independent, not overly independent adult, appropriately independent adult, not lone wolfing. We don't want to go off on our own, right? We want to be in support and community. But the recognizing that we can take action specifically against things like hustle culture that comes up, and to actually have the tools to rewire that and to change it so that we can be productive in flow, and less actually produces quite a bit more, which is a super cool concept. We could go off on all kinds of
we could
tangents
go on,
there.
and this is where I would love to send it over to Dawnese, because being the founder of this Leadership Academy, being experiential education, where it really, we don't just know about it, we live it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And simplifying it, but actually getting it. So Dawnese.
And Dawnese, you have children too. How many children do you have?
I was going to mention, and when you said
Yeah.
adult children, I was like, yay, me too. I have 3 adult children. They all made it to adulthood. Yay. And Wendy has 3 kiddos too, and she's in the midst of her youngest 11 and oldest 17. She's still 17. So yeah, it's such a beautiful opportunity to share. Like, all 3 of my children are so different, and their journey of life has been completely different. And so when I learned to approach it, parenting as a partner, it absolutely transformed the way that I showed up as a parent.
Yeah.
Because it was in those moments, like, I wanted to control, I wanted to protect. We have this thing we call lawnmower parenting. Yeah, that doesn't work. And Wendy and I just have been talking back and forth about this amazing book that I recommend everyone read. And it is called The Coddling of the American Mind. And it is phenomenal. And in this, it's talking about how, as lawnmower parents, as parents who wanted to protect and control everything, we actually did our children a disservice. Generation X, there's so much that we can learn, that how the mindset of this cancel culture that we have now, we get to shift that. We created it, many of us, especially in Generation X, Alex excluded. So we created that. And now, knowing what we know, we get to choose something different. We get to utilize our tools that we have in leadership and these neurological tools. I love the marriage of how leadership, and the embodiment that Wendy mentioned, right? It's not just about learning the concepts, learning all these about these cool tools that we can use, but actually utilizing them, actually putting them into practice and saying, okay, hey, this is what's working, this is what's not working, whether it's in my life with my spouse, my child, my coworker, whoever it's with. It's like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working, this is what I can shift. And it's learning to really feel body, mind, heart, and spirit. Stephen Covey talks a lot about that. And I love that, because that makes our whole being, and that's the leader within us.
Kind of like
And we could go on and
a triangle. I can't. There it is.
Well, it's the trifecta, but it has a fourth, because he includes heart. And I love that he also includes heart, because that's how I live my life. Is it's from that heart space, but also knowing that it's body, mind, heart, and spirit.
Mhm.
So like I feel like we can have this conversation for days
Yes.
about this topic. It's so important that our young people understand and know who they are, because more and more today, the pressures that come from social media, from all the things that they've experienced because they were born in this generation, and we get to interrupt it and we get to
Yeah.
let them know how much they matter. And at the same time, give them opportunities to try things out and to run and fall and skin their knees and
Yeah.
support them in getting back up and moving forward.
I feel like Dawnese is talking to me right now because I do have two young children, and I guess it doesn't matter what age they are. And, you know, being a mom of young ones, and I'm sure it doesn't matter how old your children are, right? You
Well,
want to protect them,
Alex
right? Like
Lynn, you're a university professor as well. So you're very much in touch with the kind of the
true.
range, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Except I will say, like, when they're your own kids, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
It's personal.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, I see
Yeah.
multiple opportunities to lean into leadership with my students and in just like with my clients, and even when we're speaking on this podcast. And there's the knowing, right? And like I know the neuroplasticity, and right now I'm reading about the brain development of toddlers. And so there's like, I know all this stuff, right? I teach this, I practice this, it's everything I love. And yet there's still like the reality of it,
Yeah.
of being surrendered, I guess is the word that's coming to me. Trusting. When you said partnership, I do feel that shifts things when I can position myself and look at, I get to be in partnership. And again, I feel like this goes with anybody you're leading and guiding and mentoring. And I still have that control, right? So I guess my question is for myself and even the listener, like when we find those moments of frustration or control, and I notice it's the judgment, it's if say the hair is messy or the clothes don't match or whatever, right? It's like I'm surrendered. I'm like, okay, this is, she gets to be her, she gets to be unique. And yet I still have the feeling. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if there's anything that you have for me, or even in the audience, like to work through that and to be truly surrendered, and just and knowing it's all going to work out. I mean, I heard you say that, Wendy, too, right, earlier. And embrace it, like have more fun and more joy with parenting. I think that's where I'm kind of going from, because you
Yeah.
do it's I just noticed lately there's quite a lot of time where you're like, you want them to do this, you want them to learn that, and and then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, how much fun and how much joy did I actually enjoy with my kids? Because we're in, and it is the programming, right? It is the subconscious too running the show, and being able to interrupt that to create more of that joy and that partnership and the experience, so that parenting ultimately gets to be fun, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes. All of it. Oh my gosh. Yes, parent. So my fifth pillar in the five pillars of intentional parenting is play. And there are 8 play personalities, and we get to go dive into what those are, because really what play personalities
Wow.
are our joy languages. So we've heard about love languages. We have joy languages, and we can speak it many different ways, specifically in this realm,
I
8.
had no
Really,
idea. We have joy languages. I'm hungry. Talk to
yeah.
me.
We have joy languages. That would be a whole nother podcast. So we can absolutely go there.
Okay.
But really, it's, first of all, welcome to being human.
Yeah.
Welcome to having feelings. Welcome to having fears. Welcome to being nervous or doubtful or whatever it is that you're feeling. You get to embrace whatever feelings are coming up, and your feelings don't get to run the show. If you're allowing your feelings and your emotions to run the show, you will be on a roller coaster that is exhausting and not fun. So we get to be on the roller coaster of life because the roller coasters are fun, but not based on the engine of emotions. Our engine gets to be our commitments. I get to be a playful parent. I get to be a partner in parenting. I don't know exactly what that looks like in this moment, but I'm going to sit here and ask myself, what would a partner do right now? And one of the things throughout my, oh gosh, it's been 25 years working with children and families, and I say this to most families, it's like, be the safety net, of course, especially for your little ones. I mean, don't let them fall off the top of the jungle gym and hit their head. Like, be the safety net, but don't have the safety net be so close to them that it tangles them up.
Mm-hmm.
So ask yourself, am I tangling them up in their journey right now?
Yeah.
Or am I being the partner, the safety net, but really still allowing them to take steps without tripping them up and learning the lessons that they get to learn? Because of course they get to learn the lessons. I guarantee you that one experiential lesson learned is more impactful than 1,000 lectures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So are you willing to let them take those risks? And what does partnership in risk taking look like? And you, with your child, depending on their age and stage, will have an opportunity to discuss what that looks like. I've 2 teenagers right now. One is 15, one is 17. Guess what they do every day? They push the boundaries. They take risks. They want to go beyond what is comfortable. It's their job. And so I get to check in with myself and with them of, does this risk serve their vision? Does this risk serve what they're committed to creating out in the world? And I know what that is because we have conversations about what they want and why it's important to them. So if that risk is in alignment with, fan the flames, babe, and go. But if it's going to interrupt that vision and cause potential breakdown, and like, I know your friends are doing this, but let's really think about, like, does this serve?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, more often than not, I would say 95% of the time, when I give my child the ability to make the decisions on her own, to make the choices on her own after having these kinds of conversations, 95% of the time, she chooses the one that serves.
I love that. And I love, Dawnese, I'd love to hear from you too, since you have adult children. I know with me as a parent, I often did not feel safe in allowing them to fail. And if I had allowed them to experience that more under my guidance, I can see now, looking back and connecting the dots, where that would have increased confidence in certain areas and increased integrity, actually. And so I would love to hear your perspective on that.
So the fascinating thing is we get to ask ourselves, what is it that it's saying about me and how my child shows up in the world? Yeah. That's
Ego is swelling as we talk right now.
Yep. That is at the root of how we often parent our children, especially in public. Or as you were referring to, Alex, like how my child's dressed and if their hair is a mess or whatever. I can't tell you what joy, well, I will tell you the joy that it brings to my heart when I see, lately I've seen toddlers like walking around barefooted and their hair a mess and they're all disheveled. I was like, go parents. I actually, if I have the opportunity, I will compliment that parent. I will acknowledge them and let them know, because I know there's kind of this group of people that are just letting their children experience whatever it is. And so it's kind of like we have a little bit of the extremes, but the real question is how can I partner with them in such a way that I am not worried about judgment? And that I am allowing them to be who they are. Wendy said it so beautifully. And they may not know their vision yet, but we as their parents have a little seed, we get to see it just a little bit of what they can become, of who they can become in this world from the moment we hold that baby in our arms. we see it in their very soul through their beautiful eyes. And as they mature and grow. And so it's really about us being willing to let go of the reins. As I mentioned, all three of my children are different. They are unique. I have an overachieving perfectionist child. Don't know where he got that from. And he is college graduated, working, married, and life is, he teaches me about investing and all the cool things. And then I have another child who does parkour. Now, if you really want to learn how to let go,
I love parkour.
allow your child to do parkour. So I did have one condition for him, and that was before he started doing flips on concrete, that he learned the proper techniques in a gym before he went and did those on the concrete. So, and then my daughter, who is not, in college or, is struggling with lots of different things. And so they are all different. And here's the beauty of it is that I get to stand with them in whatever they want to create in their life. And I just, when I chose to let go of what I was attached to how it should look, it was absolutely liberating. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not still there. I'm like the bumpers, right? On the bumper bowling. I'm there to support them, but sometimes I also get to let them fall in the gutter. So that's not a great analogy because sometimes they do get to fall in the gutter and then they get to pick themselves up and move forward. So Carol, that was like I in my heart of hearts, I know that it's not an easy thing, and we can talk about it like it's easy. And at the same time, you get to have support to learn how to shift some things neurologically within your life, whatever that you've created, so that you can give them that space to grow, to learn, to fall down, to get back up, to fail, because it hurts our mom hearts, especially our kids struggle. And so it's really knowing that they're going to be okay. And they'll actually even be better off if we let them fall, if we let them fail, if we let them learn, and we're there to partner with them to support them getting up again and continuing again to move forward, and not allowing that, to be such a setback that they just shut down and don't try again.
Well, and I would say like understanding neuroplasticity has really supported, because it's like, okay, so it didn't work this time. No worries. Guess what? We got tomorrow, right? Like I think I referred to it before, like our brains are like a piece of plasticine, right? You can mold it and stretch it out. And I would say that that has allowed me to give myself permission, right? To be committed and to continue going, and not understanding that, I'm going to break my kid or something in a moment, right? Like it's a continuous process. And I think this goes back down to talking about, right, the global leadership experience, and talking about with the teen leadership and the academy and the experiential. I mean, I've got a background in education, so I understand the importance of, it's not just like writing things out in a book, but actually experiencing learning of what you have put together as a trainer and as the founder for our teens. And not just even the teens, right? For the leaders, for the parents. And so do you want to share us a little bit about that, what that looks like? So like, we're not alone in this process, right? Like we get to be in partnership with our kids, with each other, and even with what you put together, Dawnese and Wendi as well, to support our kids, our teens, our loved ones.
Wendi, you touched on the brain development phase of teenagers, which is so important too for you parents that may be listening right now. It's really important to understand that these wonderful people in this community, in this room that are doing teen leadership, have an awareness of these things. And, the grammar stage, I'm going back to an old Latin trivium type viewpoint, but where, then you're going into a logical stage. And in those teen years, really getting to the point where you're going to want to argue things. You're going to want to express your viewpoint and your worldview. And so, I love your question, Alex Leanne. I'd love to hear Dawnese and Wendi about the impact of this leadership program for teens.
I want Wendy to jump in and answer this. I want to emphasize something, Alex, you said, though. Children are resistant. Resistant? No, that's not the word that I was looking for. Resilient. That's
Resilient. Resilient.
Or something like resistant.
They are resistant.
Maybe the
sometimes.
parents
Maybe I
are.
said that.
That would be the parent.
I've had a couple of those encounters. I just want to
Yeah,
mention.
It's true. Some are resistant. It's true.
Yeah, definitely the 2 and 3-year-old are there, but they are resilient. They are resilient. And, my children were extremely blessed to be at an elementary school that actually taught Stevens Covey's 7 principles.
Wow.
When my 6-year-old daughter turned to me one day and said, Mom, you just need to change your paradigm, I was like, so happy. But the other thing I want to emphasize with that is they have in that space, their principal said something at the end of every daily announcement. And I wish every child had this experience, right? And across the whole world. And we get to create more of it. We get to create that. And Wendy and I are aware, like, especially in the teen phases. But she would say at the end of the announcement, she would say, today is a new day.
Mhm.
Make it great.
Yeah.
And we adopted that philosophy as a family, is today is a new day. Exactly. And so I wanted to emphasize that. And so we take that same approach in the Global Leadership Academy, right? Today's a new day. We get to be in the present moment. And as we work with these teens, Wendy can speak into that, what we're creating for the teens and also parents. Wendy, feels shared, because we both felt incredibly strongly that this gets to be a dual journey, that parent and child are learning to partner with one another and really learn to create that beautiful leadership space.
Yeah. So, going back to the neuroscience, because I also love the neuroscience, just very quickly, 0 to 12 months is the fastest brain growth that we will ever have in our lives. I mean, think about what a baby is when they're born, and at a year, they are, many of them independent walkers. The second fastest phase of brain growth is adolescence. So the teen years. It's so important to have the inputs, because they are sponges. They pick up everything. And unlike a baby, a teenager now has enough experience, just enough experience, to actually create the beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the interpretations of themselves and others in the world. And they're almost collecting evidence of the truth of that.
Yeah.
So when we can get in there in those teenage years and make sure that the paths that are being activated in the brain are ones that serve themselves, others, humanity, in the world, we will have a next generation of transformational leaders versus what we've got right now, which are transactional leaders. What are you going to do for me? Like, I'll do this for you, but it's like, it's not this abundance of generosity. And so we're shifting, as Dawnese just shared, the paradigm of where we're coming from. And we can do this effectively in the teenage years because the brain is ready for it. Now, the key here is that I, in a month-long or even a 3-month-long program, am not going to be the one that has the staying power with this child. The parent is. Mm-hmm. So when the teen leader is going through leadership, they're getting it quickly and grabbing onto it and running with it. And if they go home to a home that's not getting it yet, it is easy to go back to the way that it was. And so it's very important to understand that with our teen leadership program, we have a parallel parenting track.
I love that.
Takes the parents on the journey. So whether parents have had any sort of personal development work in leadership or transformational leadership or not, they have now a paradigm of leaning into it and learning it in partnership with their child. And in addition to that, have the coaches and the trainer to lean on and be like, I don't get it. How do I do this? Like, I understand what you're saying. It's not translating in the results. Help me, please. We've got the help. We've got the support. And so what we've noticed is that the more the parents are involved and either applying what they already know in leadership directly to parenting or learning it for the first time, And oh no, sorry, that was my daughter alerting me. When she calls me and I don't answer the phone, she often like pings my phone. So that is okay. I get to call her soon. And so the key here is that this is a lifelong process. And our comfort zone isn't necessarily comfortable, but it's familiar.
Right.
And so when our brains are the super highway, we will take the familiar, comfortable path because our brain actually thinks we need it for survival.
Right.
So to break that pattern is very challenging. So we're not working on breaking patterns. We're working on building new roads. And so the new road, the new way may feel like you're going through the Amazon jungle with a machete the first time.
Yes. Talk
It
about
will be
brain
hard.
resistance. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it may feel like that. But then when you walk that path again, it's a little bit wider and it's a little
Yeah.
bit wider. And then until it becomes the super highway, becomes your DNA, becomes your normal, and a foundation off of which to launch to your next level of leadership in creating. And really, at the end of the day, what is leadership? It's relationships.
Yeah.
It's mastering relationships. And when we look at what's going on in the world, when things aren't working, what is it? It's a breakdown in relationship. That's all it
Yeah.
is. And so
Yeah.
when we can just lean into that and know that we have the power to create whatever relationship we want with whomever we want, the world is literally our oyster and we can just pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward.
And
That's what I'm up to.
Wendy, I just want to touch on one really quick thing you mentioned was laying down the new roads, the new pathways. For our listeners, we talk about it. That's laying down a new neural network, a new thought pattern, a new belief. Thought plus emotion equals belief. And this is the cool part. There's something called synaptic pruning. So when you're laying down a new path, you're actually removing that old limiting belief. So that's the exciting part, right? And that's something that I just wanted to touch on there that you mentioned, because establishing those patterns is entirely possible over 90 days. And then getting them reinforced by having the parents come in and walk alongside, I think is something that will really enhance the program and is something that's an exciting development in teen leadership. And I know you guys have all done teen leadership. Alex, I think I interrupted a question, but I'd love to know, like, what is your experience? What is the follow through? What are some of the transitions you've seen?
Do you want me to go with that, or do you want to go? Who wants to take that?
So how we're still in the like really discovering what works the best and for the length of period that we have these young people right now. How the training is set up is that it's set up for 2 days, and then we have them for either 4 weeks or 6 weeks. The longer we can have them, the better. This next one will be 6 weeks. And then they have coaching. They have opportunities to experience coaching and they also have a small team that they get to work with. And then the teens have a separate experience. To be clear, that's the teens. And so they have their own separate experience. And then we have a graduation and we celebrate them. And then we have the parents, and the parents have their own 1 day training. And then we have calls every week with the parents, and they have coaching as well. Now, we are also looking at opportunities and exploring opportunities to bring them together in some capacity within this space that we have them as well. So we are in creation mode now.
I love it.
Yes, so that's some of what is being created, and it's that support system that they have. Of course, they have their peers. We know that peer to peer is amazing, and we invite graduates of the teen program to come back and be peer mentors. And that's a huge part of what we offer as well. We want them to stay involved and continue to mentor their peers so that they have that peer-to-peer contact, because that's huge.
Wow. And so what kind of transitions have you seen? Even I know you've been involved with it too, Alex Lee, and I'd love to hear a memorable transition that you've witnessed.
Well, I got to when I was coaching last year, one of my co-coaches was one of the team leaders from the previous cohort. And what I saw was this genuine, connected, loving, confident leader. And the way that he was able to connect with the other leaders in the room and stand for them and just confidently, like, even he just shared about the relationships, right? As when he said, like, leadership is relationships. And he just talked about how his relationships flourish. I mean, how his grades even improved because he wasn't afraid to go and ask a teacher for help or, getting clarification, right? Like, I mean, I've got a lot of experience working in schools with teenagers, and you have, sure, like the high achievers, right? The smart kids of the class were always asking the questions. We're sitting at the front. And, there's a reason for that because they're not afraid to take risks. They're not afraid to ask for help. And to take those that you would say typically see sitting at the back of the class and now have them go to the front of the class, like, to me, that's massive transformation. And this is the one thing I noticed with teens and having worked with a lot of teens and adults is that teens are ready to take themselves on. Like, they're hungry. And so they definitely experience, I guess you could say, like, quicker transformation in terms of like taking themselves on and putting themselves out there. They don't have the same baggage, quote unquote, that we have as adults, like the amount of years and years and years of like the limiting beliefs that hold us back. It's there for like a split second, but they're able to move through it. And that's what's so beautiful because when you can help teens see that and recognize that and collect the evidence of what's on the other side of the things that are holding them back, that's going to help them tremendously through adulthood and as they get older. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that I notice is that they show up and they might have this self-doubt and they hold themselves back and they play a small game, but very quickly because they've got people supporting them. Like, that's the thing. When they have people in their corner cheering their mom and holding them high and seeing what's possible, they are much likely to take much more bigger risks. So I love that, hearing that the parents and the teens are doing this together, because in my experience, especially working with a lot of teenagers in the school system, is that it's oftentimes the parents that are sometimes holding them back. And so I love the invitation to the partnership and doing it alongside so that you too, as a parent, can take the risk. And again, I say this because I talk all this, and I also have my own kids. And so, yeah, it's being okay to be messy. It's okay to experiment, and it's really releasing that judgment piece. But that was my experience, and that was what I was mind blown to see how quickly the breakthroughs happened with teenagers.
I'll share a couple of recently I heard of too. Like, one mom reached out to me and she's like, my daughter just got her first A, like, ever. She's 8th grade. And so and that was such a big like celebration. She got her first A. So it was like, yes, we're celebrating that. We have teens that come in and they want all straight A's, but like, that was a celebration. This same young person who struggles with a lot of different things, she took it upon herself to make dinner for the family one night. The whole dinner. That was amazing. And then we have another young man that I just recently learned. He came in and he wanted to really gain confidence because he wanted to be an entrepreneur. And he just made in a 3-day period of time, when he set his mind to something, he set a goal and a powerful intention, and he generated $5,500 in 2 days. So
that's amazing.
We have we get to experience, this with them, to support them. What really, really impacts them is they get to be seen, they get to be heard, they get to feel and know that they matter. And that's the message that they get to receive as a teenager, so that they can, for me, it's like combating all of the other voices and messages that they're hearing out there in the world. And that's what we're creating.
And what's so beautiful, I love all that. What's so beautiful for each teen and parent that comes in is the next level cut, the next breakthrough that they get to have in their leadership is different for each one. And so the programming is developed so that wherever it meets everybody where they are and provides the opportunity for each one to take that next cut. So their next cut might be going from the back of the room playing small to being the front of the room taking the lead. Somebody else who's always in the front of the room, their next cut is actually looking at the people around them and seeing, who can I support to lift up? and take a step back, not like just letting go of the reins of everything, but being the wind beneath somebody else's wings that I may not have even paid attention to before. There might be the breakthrough of, I don't want to rock the boat, but it's not really what I want. So they learn how to say, I know what I want, and now I have a way to powerfully request support for that. And then there might be another one who is just so enthusiastic about life at all that they're completely disconnected from what is going on around them. And they actually take a minute to breathe and look around and go, oh, you're not feeling so good. Oh, you've got some skills that I would really like to have. I'm going to model that. And they actually start noticing and being connected to everything around them and how that, again, will serve not only themselves, but everybody. And so really it's a space and an opportunity for everyone to up level whatever their stretch is. And everybody's stretch is a little bit different. And it's just really fun to see them all come together as a championship team, because that's the other part of being in the program, is that they are working, not just me, myself, and I, but as a team. Nobody wins unless everybody wins. Okay, I might be a rock star, but this person is struggling. How can I bring them on board so that we all cross the line arm in arm? Again, going back to what we've been talking about from the beginning, partnership, arm in arm.
And the parents' stretches look a little bit
that.
different, and the parents get to have stretches too. And primarily their stretches are focused on connecting with their teams, allowing their team to be heard and to be seen and to create that relationship that they really want to have with them.
That's really cool. That's really special, especially that they're specifically designed with that purpose in mind. And one of the things that I have really enjoyed is, Wendy, you have brought out the power of questions. And it's one of the things that Alex and I use in our coaching a lot, but learning how to translate those questions to our personal relationships, to all of our life. There's a saying, the quality of our life is dependent on the quality of our questions. And, I have heard that repeated, and I wanted to say that was really, really powerful. And I mentioned integrity earlier too, because that is one of the things that Alex asked me a couple of questions last week, was something that I was going through and dealing with. And it really put me in mind of, am I having integrity with myself? And I wasn't completely. I thought I was, but it was the power of the question that made me recognize, that helped me to recognize that I had a gap in an area that I needed to face and step through. Didn't want to, but I did. So it was good. So I think that's one of the reasons that I love this work, is because it's relational. And when you get into relationship with integrity, trust is built, and it gets really exciting. So I just wanted to mention that because it keeps coming to mind.
Yeah. And I want to just share with you and the listeners too, if you're sitting there thinking, but I don't know what question to ask, like what is a good question? That's okay. It's okay. I didn't know either. It's like, oh, this is so new. So then I just ask myself, and this is where authenticity comes in. Sometimes I'll be in front of my child and go, I want to ask a really great question right now, and I don't know what it is. I wonder what it would be. And so I'm just authentic about it. And so, and even in that moment, whether it's me taking a breath and asking that of myself or saying it out loud, it brings the realness, because if there's anything that a teen can detect from 500 miles away, it's inauthenticity. So let's be authentic about where we are. So when I come with that question, and sometimes I'm silent, and my middle daughter will be like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I'm thinking a lot of things right now, and I'm not sure if voicing them serves. So I'm trying to figure out right now what to say. And she's like, well, just say it. I'm like, well, and then we'll have this conversation, but then it just leads into a beautiful conversation that wouldn't have happened otherwise had I just been like, okay, I got to get this right. I got to ask the right question. I got to, lead her to a place that I think I know we're going to go. Just let the conversation unfold. And I could never planned the beauty that comes out of those kinds of connections going into it. All I can be is intentional about being vulnerable, being intimate, being authentic, being loving. Like I go into those conversations just committed to that and let the conversation unfold as it may. And my oldest, she's great. She's more of a controller, and we'll get into these conversations. And then, 25 minutes in, she realizes it's almost like this. Oh my God, I've been vulnerable. I didn't really want to go there. And it's like, you can see this switch be like, oh, mom, maybe go there again. And I didn't even know it. And so she'll look at me and she's like, social hour's over, out. So I'm like, okay, I love you. Bye. But I understand her personality, and I understand that her stretch is vulnerability. And so we go there, we create it. And then it's almost like, oh, how did you get me to go there? I didn't really want to go there, but I went there, and so it's just, but it's those intentions versus like, what's the right question? So go into the conversations with the intention, trust that the questions will come. And then as questions work, you'll repeat them, and they'll probably work for 2 weeks before they get old. And then you'll come up with new questions. That's just how it works.
I love that.
It's all about being in that curious space without judgment, without assuming, without attachment of how it should look, but really being in that space of authenticity and in curiosity, and not the 20 questions I'm grilling my child energy. That doesn't work.
That's a really good point.
Really open and having those dialogues. Wendy, that's so beautiful, the example you gave. Thank you for that.
Oh, and I love that you said the 20 questions, because that was the feedback that I got at first. They're like, why? I feel like I'm in an interrogation. I feel like I'm in a therapy session. I'm like, no, that is not what I want. This is not that. So, but then I allowed that feedback to, when they say it, they mean it, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
And so then I get to look at, oh gosh, from what space am I asking the questions? Is it really like, did I read it in a book and I'm doing it verbatim? Did I? It's not authentically me. It's actually Tina Payne Bryson. I just messed up her name, but you know what I mean? It's Dan Siegel, like coming out of my mouth, and it's like, no, it gets to be me. So, just, this is where you just get to trust yourself and trust your intention, recognize that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to create things that don't work, and that's okay. And you're going to create things that are incredible, and you get to celebrate that. So, it's just the journey.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we were so grateful that you were both here today, and really been fun. Obviously looking to parallels too, right? Between like our own individual leadership and then leadership of teens and with our children. And just, it's beautiful to unpack and really looking at the joy, looking at defining the partnership, right? The relationship piece, and giving yourself grace, right? And just embrace it. And like, I'm reading the books. So I know exactly the authors you're talking about, Wendy, because those are the books that I'm reading right now. Right. And, have fun, right? Like you do get to have fun with your children, with your teens, and embrace leadership, embrace that it is a journey, right? There's no destination in this work. It's really about leveling up, taking yourself on, stretching yourself, and making the most of all the experiences that you get to experience. So is there any final thing that you'd like to share with the audience about parenting, leadership, teenage leadership, for them to walk away with today?
We have covered so much, and there's so much yet to uncover. And really, I would just reemphasize being partners and cheering, being their biggest cheerleader. And as Wendy mentioned earlier, coach when we get to coach, just be their confidant when you get to be their confidant. Just listen when you get to listen. Know with your child in any relationship, this is sound advice. Know when you just get to listen, and know when they want your feedback. And actually ask them if needed, like ask them, or am I listening just so that you can get this off your chest and just, I'm listening to just listen, or are you listening so that you want some kind of feedback from me, some kind of input, and just ask. And when we go into a conversation with people who we care about, or even a coworker, we may care about our coworkers, but just really knowing the intention of that conversation is absolutely instrumental in creating relationship.
Yeah.
I ditto all of that. And I frequently do ask my children, are you open to hearing what I have to say? And sometimes they're not. I'm like, okay, great. And I don't take it personally. That's the other thing. Don't take anything personally. When I ask the question, it gets to be a request, not a demand. And I know that if I don't like the answer that they gave me, that it was more of a demand than a request, because a request can always be met with a yes, no, or a negotiation. And we all get to be neutral in the space of that discovery and that conversation. But really what I wanted to leave everyone with is just understand that we went to school for 12, 16, 20 years to get ready for the real world. What does that mean? That means our career. That means what we do professionally. Almost none of us have any real training on how to be and do the most important job in the world, which is raising the next generation of humans. So give yourself grace, acknowledge yourself for being here, for doing the work, for leaning into the uncomfortable, for not pretending that you've got it all together, and actually just asking for support, recognizing when things are working and celebrate, recognize that what's not working and shift it now. Don't that's the thing about our kids. If we don't shift it now, it grows. So shift it now. So many of the teen parenting books are like, so when they were 7, this is what you could have done. And it's like, oh gosh, I'm not there anymore. So what can I do now? But it's really don't let things that don't work go on. Really interrupt it and shift it, start it with you, and then be committed to creating something different, something that's really going to work. And give yourself grace as you are laying down those new pathways in your brain, creating those new behaviors and ways of being, and be on the journey with it. Have fun with it. Don't take yourself so seriously. Really, we get to laugh at ourselves quite a bit more, and just realize that we're all on this incredible blue planet hurtling through space, doing the best that we can, and we can choose to up level and have fun in the process. And if it's not that, then why are we here?
Yes. Profound, right? So profound. And man, what might it look like for your family, for your child's life to go through a program like this, a program that is absolutely transformational in all of the best ways, and to be able to have a perspective on life that provides them the tools that they need to do the things that they're here for and break generational patterns. The neuroplasticity we have is amazing. And your teen is at a stage in life where they have all of this opportunity and capability in front of them. So this has been absolutely amazing, right, Alex Leanne? And we so appreciate you being here and highly encourage you to step forward with this teen leadership program.
So we'll have the links in the show notes if you are interested in learning more about this for your teens, for yourself. And Dawnese, Wendy, thank you so much. Where can the audience connect with you on socials, online, to be able to learn even more about you and, to learn more about even parenting?
Yeah. So my newest website, which is being updated as we speak is wendymckenna.com. And I'm also every once in a while on Instagram, but really through the trainings, through my website, that is the easiest and best place to be connected with me.
Wonderful.
And
Thanks,
for
Wendy.
all of the trainings, including TLE and all that is offered, is globalleadershipacademy.org. So that's .org. And so excited. I wanted to mention too that anyone who's parenting these teens, it might be a grandparent or an aunt or someone else, they are also invited to participate in this. This is for anyone, and as we grow, we will expand to people like teachers and other people too. So we want to make sure that anyone who has impact with a teenager this is relevant information and relevant opportunity and experience.
Beautiful.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Yay.
And we get to talk to you next week. So have an amazing, unleashed, and unstoppable week. And ciao for now. Ciao.
All right. Thanks again, Wendy and
Bye.
Dawnese.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.